Discover the hidden dangers. 10 common fridge foods that could change 1 million lives overnight. Claire's heart raced as she adjusted the cans on the shelf at the Maplewood grocery store. The headline blared at her from the magazine section, a sensationalized promise of shocking revelations. It was just another sunny afternoon in her small Midwestern town, where life moved at a comfortable pace. Little did she know, her world was about to turn upside down. With 2 part-time jobs, Claire often felt like she was running a marathon on an empty tank. Yet her spirit shone brighter than the summer sun, especially when she watched her children, Mia and Alex, playing in the backyard or wrapped up in a weekend pancake breakfast after volunteering at the local food pantry. The warmth of their laughter was her fuel. But that everyday joy felt fragile as she stood by the aisle, absorbing the implications of the article's claims about common fridge staples like mayonnaise and dairy products hiding dangerous ingredients. The weight of that information settled heavily on her heart. What if it was true? What if her kids were in danger? Determined to protect Mia and Alex, Claire's mind raced with the idea of sharing this knowledge with her neighbors. But when she did, she was met with a mix of disbelief and indifference. "We can't afford to change what we buy," one neighbor snapped, while another muttered something about fear-mongering. Their dismissive attitudes stung, igniting a fierce determination within Claire. Before she knew it, she was rallying others, initiating community discussions on food safety and health. There was urgency in her tone as she described the dangers lurking right under their noses. "We deserve better. Our kids deserve better," she cried. But the shadows of economic inequality loomed large. For some, ignorance felt like the only comfort in an already overwhelming struggle. Just when Claire felt like she was gaining momentum, Alex fell frighteningly ill. Panic coursed through her veins as she rushed him to the hospital, tears threatening to spill as she consulted the doctors. Was it her fault? Had she unknowingly exposed her children to the very danger she sought to fight? Claire's world felt like it was crumbling. As she gripped Alex's small hand, the hospital's stark fluorescent lights blurred into a haze of fear and frustration. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Claire's heart sank deeper as her community rallied around her, bringing casseroles and comforting words. The town she loved, every familiar face, every shared smile, came together with an urgency that mirrored her own. Through her pain, she realized something profound. Unity held power. Could she really change the thinking in Maplewood? Could she bring them to a place where they all cared enough to question and act? As her long-estranged aunt reached out with hidden wisdom about health and safety, Claire found herself at a crossroads. Would she take a path toward personal salvation, or fight for the lives of her neighbors alongside her own family? The questions hung heavy in the air, and Claire felt the pulse of a movement starting to form. In the face of fierce opposition, she now had to decide. Would she let adversity weaken her spirit, or would she rise up, fueled by the injustice that gnawed at her heart? The future of Maplewood, and perhaps her children's health, depended on the answer. The days turned into a blur as Claire juggled hospital visits with her daily grind. Each beep of the machines seemed to echo her growing anxiety. She could barely focus. It was impossible not to envision every sick child who'd been in that ward, and the questions hounded her relentlessly. What if it was something preventable? What if she was too late? Alex lay there pale and fragile against the stark white sheets. Claire stroked his hair, trying to fight the dark thoughts creeping into her mind. Just days before, they had been baking cookies together. She remembered him laughing as flour danced through the air. That laughter now felt like a distant memory, swallowed by uncertainty. At home, Mia tried to be strong, but Claire could see the worry in her daughter's eyes. It was a heartbreaking sight, her usual cheerful spirit dimmed by fear. They had kept Mia informed, but Claire noticed the moments when her little girl quietly withdrew, hugging her stuffed animals tight as if they were shields against the darkness enveloping their family. "Mom, is Alex going to be okay?" Mia asked one evening, her small voice quaking with the weight of worry. Claire knelt beside her, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "He's fighting, sweetheart. We need to believe he will get better." But inside her chest, hope warred with dread. Back at the hospital, the doctors delivered the painstaking news. They suspected a viral infection that could take time to clear. "He'll be okay," assured Dr. James, but Claire couldn't shake the feeling that they were losing precious time. Weeks passed, and the community began to stir. Inspired by Claire's tenacity, the townsfolk started to show up at her door. They brought information, a plethora of pamphlets about food safety and nutrition. Claire felt a spark ignite within her. If they came together, maybe they could start to make changes, small adjustments that might protect their families. They organized a town hall meeting, the room buzzing with energy. Faces she hadn't seen come together before filled the seats. Mothers holding babies, fathers with tired eyes, grandparents clutching their grandchildren. There was power in their numbers. "This matters. Our health matters." Claire stood at the podium, her heart pounding. The fear and uncertainty for Alex powered every word. "We can't ignore what we put in our fridges. We owe it to ourselves and to our children." As her voice echoed, she felt the crowd leaning in. In their varied expressions, uncertainty, curiosity, and then a dawning realization, Claire found a flicker of hope. Suddenly, an elderly woman stood up. "I remember when we used to know where our food came from," she cried, her voice full of conviction. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. That one voice awakened the memories of simpler times, pushing them all to reflect. Claire's heart raced. Maybe this was the turning point she had yearned for. But just then, outside the window, a siren wailed through the night, a stark reminder that not everyone was safe. The sound sliced through her newfound excitement, an urgent call that they were still in danger. As the meeting adjourned and goodbyes rang out, Claire felt a storm of emotion swirling within her. Could they truly create change? And what if it was too late for Alex? As she stepped outside, the cool breeze hit her like a wave of reality. She glanced back at the town hall, the flickering lights inside illuminating faces filled with determination. Each person was a torchbearer in a fight for their families. But at that moment, Claire couldn't shake one thought. What would happen if Alex didn't improve? What lengths would she go to save him? Her resolve deepened as the night thickened around her. The answer loomed like an unasked question waiting in the shadows. Who would she become in this fight for their lives? Would she be the voice of change, or would she succumb to fear's paralyzing grip? Little did she know, the battle was just beginning, and the ultimate revelation would shake Maplewood to its core. Claire couldn't sleep. The echoes of the town hall meeting played in her mind like a haunting melody, each word calling her to action. Outside her window, the stars blinked down as if they too were waiting for her to make a move. The uncertainty of Alex's health weighed heavy on her, and she realized she couldn't sit idly by any longer. In the gentle glow of the kitchen light, Claire began to gather the pamphlets that had piled on her kitchen table. She spread them out, their bright colors and bold headings a stark contrast to the gray shadows creeping in from outside. It was time to dive deeper, time to educate herself about the very foods that filled their home. She thought of Mia and Alex, both precious to her. She had to protect them. As she read through each pamphlet, Claire felt her heart race. The statistics were staggering. Some foods, she now understood, were so heavily processed that they stripped away essential nutrients, leaving nothing but empty calories. She read about how certain additives could affect children's health, linking them to everything from allergies to emotional disturbances. Each fact sent shivers down her spine. Could this be the hidden danger she'd been overlooking? The sun began to poke through the curtains when she finally pushed the papers away and closed her eyes for a moment. It wasn't just about Alex anymore. This was bigger than her family. It was about all the families in Maplewood. She could almost hear the voices of her neighbors echoing in her ears, the fears they had shared, the despair in their eyes. Mia wandered into the kitchen, her tousled hair and sleepy eyes the only remnants of childhood innocence left. "Mom, are you okay?" Claire smiled softly, gesturing for her to sit. "I'm okay, honey. I'm just learning a few things, trying to understand some of the foods we eat." "Like cookies?" Mia asked, her nose wrinkling with a half-smile. Claire chuckled, remembering their adventures in the kitchen. "Something like that. But we might need to change how we make them, and what we put in them." Mia leaned closer, her curiosity waking up. "Will it make Alex better?" Claire felt a tightening in her chest. "I hope so, but it might help other kids too." With newfound purpose, Claire decided it was time to revisit the community. They had come together once, they could do it again. She needed to gather the townsfolk, share what she'd learned, and inspire them to rethink their food. Maybe they could even invite a nutritionist to lead the discussions. As she stepped outside later, the world seemed brighter. The sun hung low, casting a golden glow over Maplewood. The town felt alive, charged with potential. She could see the possibilities stretched out before her. But amidst her excitement, a nagging worry curled in her stomach. What if it wasn't just about foods? What if, beneath the surface, there were deeper issues tied to their health? What if this was just the tip of the iceberg? That evening, with the kitchen now filled with sunlight, Claire picked up a pen and paper. She wrote down key points she wanted to cover. She made lists of questions she needed to ask. What truly is in our food? What are the risks we can't see? She hoped that those answers lay within her reach. As night fell, Claire was standing at the window, looking out at her quiet town, when a thought hit her, a startling realization. She might need to dig further, explore truths that could well be buried beneath layers of convenience. She might not just be fighting for Alex, but uncovering a larger battle that could affect everyone they loved. Driven by urgency, she reached for her phone. With shaping fingers, she typed, "I'm organizing another meeting tomorrow. We need to talk about what's really happening under our roofs." But deep down, she wondered, what allies would she find? What secrets might she uncover? And most importantly, would they be prepared for the truth? The next morning, Claire woke with determination thrumming in her chest. The sunlight streaming through the window filled her with hope, but it was also a reminder of the urgency of her mission. As she brewed coffee, her mind was abuzz with thoughts of the upcoming meeting. She had no idea how many people would show up, but she knew she had to make it count. After breakfast with Mia, Claire hurried through her thoughts, jotting down more ideas. What questions would resonate? What stories could she share to inspire her neighbors? By the time she was dressed, the pages were filled with notes. Little did she know that the ripple effects of her gathering would stretch far beyond her initial intentions. Once at the community center, Claire was surprised by the turnout. She hadn't expected so many familiar faces. Carpenters, shopkeepers, and parents all mingled, their collective concern palpable. She could see it in their expressions. They wanted answers just as much as she did. It was overwhelming and comforting at the same time. They were all there for the same reason. "Thank you all for coming," Claire began, standing behind a makeshift table overflowing with pamphlets and brochures. "I know everyone here shares a common fear. We're living in an age where our food can affect us in ways we never thought possible." She could hear murmurs, heads nodded. They were with her. In the first 20 minutes, Claire shared powerful statistics and stories. Each fact was like a pebble thrown into the pond, sending ripples through the room. Children were suffering from ailments that were once rare, and families were struggling to understand why. She felt every heart in the room echoing her own fears. Then she saw Susan, a single mother of 2, raise her hand. "Claire, I didn't realize the food we buy is so processed. What can we actually do?" There was desperation in her voice, and Claire recognized it. Claire's own heart squeezed in empathy. This was why she had called the meeting. "We can start small," Claire suggested, her mind racing. "Let's make a plan. We need to choose better options, challenge our local shops, and hold events where we can cook together. We can ask questions, reach out to experts who can help us understand what's really happening." The crowd buzzed with a mix of agreement and excitement. Others began to share their own stories. Claire was astonished at the willingness of her neighbors to engage. They had all been waiting for someone to light the spark, and now it was blazing. But as the meeting progressed, the tension in the room shifted when Tom, a local farmer, spoke up. "What if there are more fundamental problems at play?" His brow furrowed. "What if it's not just about food? What about the soil and water we're using to grow it?" Claire chewed on her bottom lip, her heart racing. It was a valid concern, one Claire hadn't fully considered. What if the answers she sought about their food were deeper, leading them into a more complex web of issues? As she wrapped up the meeting, Claire felt both exhilarated and nervous. They had hatched a plan, but now there were darker shadows looming ahead. She could sense that the fight for food safety was just the beginning. She looked into the eyes of her friends and neighbors, fiery resolve glimmering alongside their fears. "Tomorrow, let's meet up again," she announced, a determined light sparking in her eyes. "We'll form a committee. We need to tackle the bigger issue. This has to be a community effort. Together, we can uncover the secrets buried beneath those grocery store shelves." As everyone filed out, Claire's thoughts raced with possibilities. Could they really make a difference? And what would they discover about the hidden dangers lurking behind those labels? With a pen in her hand and the future in her heart, she wrote down the names of those who had signed up. She could feel the enormity of what lay ahead, a journey into the unknown. But she also felt a flicker of hope. What if this wasn't just about unearthing the dangers of food? What if they could transform their community into a beacon of health and awareness? The challenges were daunting, but so was the promise of discovery. And as she stood at the door watching the last of her neighbors walk away, a new question took root in her mind. What would the next meeting hold? What truths were waiting to be uncovered in their quest for better health? As the sun began to set the next day, Claire found herself filled with the anticipation of what lay ahead. The meeting had sparked something unexpected, a growing flame of collective purpose among her neighbors. She paced her small kitchen, rehearsing what she would say, practicing the strength of her words like a performer getting ready for an opening night. Mia peered through the doorway, sensing the energy swirling around Claire. "Y'all right?" she asked, leaning against the frame with an encouraging smile. "Yeah, just thinking about how we can organize everything. I want it to be perfect," Claire admitted, brushing a few stray hairs behind her ear. "Trust me, you already inspired them. Just be yourself," Mia replied, stepping inside and pouring herself a cup of coffee. With those reassuring words, Claire felt her nerves settle a bit. They were back at the community center, the familiar scent of fresh paint and wood filling the air, mingling with the more intense aroma of determination. Folding chairs were scattered throughout the room, and she was taken aback by the crowd that gathered once again. It was larger this time, families, young and old, side by side, filled with hope yet lined with worry. "All right, let's get started," Claire announced, her voice steady. "Thank you for coming back. I think we can all agree this isn't just about what's on our plates. It's a deeper issue about how we cultivate our food and the very health of our community." Nervous eyes turned to Tom, still lingering along the periphery. Something steeled in Claire's gut at the sight of him. His skepticism now felt familiar. "Last time, you mentioned concerns about soil and water. I think we need to dig into that today. Can you elaborate?" Tom nodded slowly, appearing more willing to share. "Sure, it's not just what we eat, but where it comes from. Our soil has been depleted. Crop rotation is a lost art. And pollutants? They go all the way back into our waters. It's affecting the food we grow and us." Claire felt the seriousness of his words weigh on the room. Shadows crossed faces as a realization set in. This was bigger than they ever imagined. Suddenly, it wasn't just about making better choices in stores, it was about a complete overhaul of their approach and understanding. A hand shot up from the back. It was Susan, eyes wide with urgency. "If the soil is unhealthy, does that mean our organic vegetables might not be as safe as we thought? How can we trust anything?" The question hung in the air, heavy and bold. Claire swallowed hard. "That's a tough pill to swallow, but these are the questions we need to be asking. We can't change what we don't know." She could see several heads nodding in agreement. The atmosphere charged with resolve, and ideas began bubbling up from the crowd, suggestions on how they could tackle this multifaceted issue together. Commitments were made to coordinate with local farmers, educate themselves, and reach out to experts to conduct workshops. "That's right," Claire encouraged, her heart swelling with pride and awe at the community spirit unfolding around her. "This isn't just about uncovering what's wrong. It's about uplifting our neighborhood, demanding transparency from those who grow and sell what we eat. We can transform our community through action." As the night wore on, Claire felt as if they were paving a new path, one filled with strength, collaboration, and hope. The laughter mixed with the serious discussions formed a buoyant balance in the air, stirring hope within her. But a deeper concern emerged within the collective enthusiasm. Claire noticed Tom's brow furrowed deeper. "What if the bigger problem is out of our control?" he interjected unexpectedly, drawing back from the excitement. "What if our local resources are limited? What about food supply chains?" A chill swept through the room. Claire grappled with the fact that their movement, though necessary, might be against a current far greater than they anticipated. The enthusiasm hovered, but now it was tethered to a new fear, one that loomed just as large. As people began to disperse, Claire felt the urgency boiling in her veins. What would they uncover about those supply chains? And how would their community respond to challenges larger than themselves? She could sense they were on the precipice of something much bigger than they intended to tackle that night. With her voice echoing in her mind, she knew a turning point had arrived. Tension hung tantalizingly in the air. Claire felt the flicker of resolve in her heart. Where would they go from here? What truths awaited them as they transformed into something more than just concerned neighbors? All she could do was press forward. Claire sat at her kitchen table, the remnants of her uneaten dinner pushed aside. It seemed like every bite she tried to swallow turned into a question. The glow of the setting sun filtered through the window, but the warmth it brought couldn't fight off the chill of uncertainty creeping into her heart. Mia shuffled in from the hallway, a stack of flyers clutched in her hand. "I went by the print shop. These should help spread the word about our next meeting." Taking a flyer, Claire's gaze fell on the bold letters, "Join us to uncover the truth about our food." It felt strong, promising, but deep down a nagging doubt whispered that they were merely scratching the surface. "Do you think we're ready for this?" Claire asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Mia leaned against the table, her face set in determination. "We don't have a choice. If we wait for someone else to do it, we'll be waiting forever. We owe it to ourselves and our kids." Kids! The thought of what they might unknowingly consume made Claire's heart race. Were they facing something greater than just inadequate local farms? Could it be a web of complexities reaching far beyond their small town? "Okay, let's start small," Claire decided, straightening her back. "We can break it down. Let's focus on local resources first. Maybe that can lead us to some bigger truths." Mia nodded, pulling out her phone. "We can set up workshops, bring in experts, get farmers involved. But we also need to dig into how our food gets here. Who's responsible for the big distributors?" As night settled in, the two women worked diligently, mapping out ideas and laying the groundwork to engage the community deeper than ever before. There was a new sense of urgency in the air, a current of electricity that both thrilled and terrified Claire. When she finally lay down to sleep, sleep came fitfully. Imagery danced through her mind. Cold storage facilities filled with crates of vegetables. Trucks on endless highways delivering products from who knows where. She dreamed of families like her own, blissfully unaware of the hidden dangers lying in wait beneath the surface of their choices. The next day, armed with their plans, Claire and Mia headed back to the community center. The anticipation radiated, thick and palpable. Families arrived, buzzing with chatter as they grabbed their seats, ready to engage in deeper discussions. "Let's get to it," Claire called out, her voice stronger now. "We're here today to navigate a journey. We need to understand where our food comes from, but that means delving deeper into what we already know." Questions and ideas bounced off the walls as stories emerged. Claire's heart soared when she heard people share their own food experiences, their own concerns. But then came the trouble. Someone asked about the suppliers, their origins, prompting murmurs of unease. "What do we do," Susan asked hesitantly, "if we find something we don't like? If our local farms aren't enough to meet our needs? What if there's nothing we can do?" The room fell silent. Claire searched their faces, fear mixing with determination. This was a vulnerable moment. The collective worry was like a living thing, pulsing through the air. Before Claire could respond, Tom stood. "We fight, don't we? Together." His voice was steady, a lifeline tossed into turbulent waters. "There's strength in numbers. If we need to turn to advocacy or policy change, we can." Nervous nods followed Tom's assertion, but Claire felt a shift in the atmosphere. It wasn't just about local issues anymore. Suddenly they were touching something larger, a movement that rippled outward. As the discussions deepened, Claire's resolve ignited again. This was more than she had anticipated. It was a surge of hope tangled with fear. What if they pushed too far? What if they unearthed information that would shake the foundation of their community? When the meeting came to an end, Claire stood before the group, feeling their collective energy surge around her. "This is just the beginning. We need to advocate, educate, and explore together. We can't let fear turn us back. We owe it to each other." But as the applause echoed around her, a small voice whispered in the back of her mind, "But what if you lose control of it all?" She took a breath, feeling an urgent tug within her. What awaited them in this pursuit? Was the potential for transformation worth the risk of discovery? They all had to face the truth together. And with the stakes rising, Claire tightened her grip on her resolve. The next chapter loomed ahead, but what hidden threats might challenge them on the road? The days that followed felt like a rush of energy and anticipation. Claire and Mia expanded their grassroots efforts, building a network of concerned families. Flyers fluttered in windows, kids helped paint banners, and the community buzzed with the hope of change. Each gathering added more strength to the cause. Claire felt buoyed by a sense of belonging, her initial fears tempered by the support of those around her. But Claire knew they had to dig deeper. With each meeting, she sensed an undercurrent of fear surfacing. People shared personal stories that revealed their distrust, not just of their food, but of the very systems that brought it to their tables. Each shared story was a stone in their foundation, but they were heavy stones, imbued with worry and doubt. One Tuesday evening, as Claire prepared to meet the group again, she stumbled upon a news article online. The headline screamed about recent food recalls related to dangerous contaminants. Her heart dropped. It felt like a slap in the face, an urgent reminder of the risks they faced with every meal. She couldn't ignore the tremor of anxiety crawling under her skin. "Claire, are you coming?" Mia's voice jolted her back to the moment. "Yeah, just catching up on some last-minute stuff," Claire replied, forcing a smile. They stepped into the community center. The scent of coffee and baked goods greeted them. The room was bustling, a palpable buzz of conversation hanging in the air. Everyone seemed eager to share. As the meeting commenced, discussions flowed freely. Claire felt the energy uplift her spirit as parents voiced their concerns, but she also detected threads of confusion weaving through the dialogue. "That article about the recalls? Do you think it's just a coincidence?" one mother asked, her voice trembling. "It sounds like it's happening more and more," another chimed in. "What if our farms aren't safe either?" Those words hung heavily in the air, discomfort rippling through the crowd. Claire held the mic tighter, waves of apprehension crashing over her as the weight of unknowing settled around them. "What if we find out something really bad?" Susan posed again, her brow furrowed. "What if it leads to nothing at all?" Her question echoed like a call to arms, yet stirring uneasiness danced in the tension. Claire gulped. Somewhere deep inside, she understood the truth buried within those worries. The unknown could be terrifying. Amidst the mounting fear, Claire felt the need to confront these feelings head-on. "What if we look at this another way?" she offered, her voice steadying. "What if we treat this as a way to empower ourselves? Knowledge is our tool. If we uncover these facts together, we can take control of our circumstances." The room vibrated with uncertainty, but she saw determination glimmer in some eyes. "We have each other," Mia added, her tone resonating with a hopeful spark. "If we find something, we work to change it, together." Encouraged, Claire looked around the room, taking in the faces of friends, neighbors, and families who felt the same weight of concern. Their shared anxiety began to transform into something else, a flicker of hope igniting the path ahead. As the meeting drew to a close, Claire once again summoned her courage. "Let's organize a day for everyone to tour our local farms. Let's see for ourselves. Knowledge is power, and we don't have to fight this battle alone." Nods of approval washed over the room, a wave of solidarity rising within them. But as Claire stepped down from the stage, a new worry gnawed at her. Would they truly be ready for what they might uncover? What if the very foundations they hoped to rely on crumbled under their scrutiny? Tomorrow, they would embark on this guided journey. But deep within her, a thought flickered, whispering of the possible dangers awaiting them. At the end of the road. What if uncovering the truths turned their world upside down instead of saving it? With her heart pounding and anticipation racing through her veins, Claire sighed. She knew they were on a precipice. This was just the beginning. What had they really gotten themselves into? The sun rose softly the next morning, its golden light bathing the community in warmth. Claire, however, felt a chill run through her heart. Today was the day. She sat at her kitchen table, a cup of coffee cooling beside her. The quiet of the morning hung heavy in the air, every tick of the clock amplifying her nerves. As she prepared for the farm tour, Claire replayed conversations from the meeting in her mind. Doubts that had seemed like whispers the night before were now shouting in her head. What if the farms weren't as transparent as they claimed? What if they were hiding something? The thought clamped down on her stomach like a vice. Mia arrived, her smile infectious, a stark contrast to Claire's troubled brows. "Ready for this?" she asked, her excitement undeniable. "Sort of. I think so," Claire replied, forcing a smile while the knot in her chest tightened. "Hey, whatever we find it together," Mia reassured her, the sincerity in her eyes easing some of Claire's tension. They packed a bag with water bottles, snacks, and notepads to jot down anything they learned during the tour. As they stepped outside, a small crowd of eager families gathered at the community center, all buzzing with anticipation. The group was larger than Claire had expected, a sea of faces filled with apprehension woven into a tapestry of hope. She took a deep breath, grateful to see familiar faces, yet feeling the weight of responsibility begin to press down again. The bus ride to the first farm was filled with chatter and tentative laughter, but Claire couldn't shake the sense that they were on the verge of uncovering something that might shift their reality. The bus rolled to a stop, and as they stepped out, the crisp, earthy smell of the farm enveloped them. The farm stretched out before them like a postcard, vibrant fields stretching to the horizon, birds chirping, and a few workers tending to their crops. Yet, as Claire looked closer, she noticed something that made her heart drop. Chemicals labeled brightly in the distance. A knot formed in her throat. "Welcome! We're so glad to have you here!" The farm owner stepped forward, beaming with pride, clearly excited to showcase his work. Claire forced herself to smile back, even as her mind raced. Would he be honest with them? The tour began, and the owner showcased various plants and their growing methods. At first, it felt reassuring, his passion for organic farming shining through. But when they reached the fields laced with chemicals, Claire caught a glimpse of the nervous glances shared among the families. "What are those?" a voice called out, breaking the uneasy silence. "Oh, just some standard fertilizers we use," the owner replied. "Nothing to worry about." But Claire watched as parents exchanged worried looks, and she sensed that this conversation was about to take a turn. Guessing at their fears, she felt the anxiety in the air all around her shift into something heavier, suffocating. Susan's voice broke through the tension again. "But what about the recalls and the contaminants?" she asked, her eyes wide with concern. "How do we know this is safe?" The owner faltered for a moment. "I assure you, we follow all regulations. We're compliant," he stammered, but his smile faltered, an all-too-telling slip. As the tour progressed, Claire felt a sense of urgency building, each question deepening the divide between reassurance and doubt. They moved towards the livestock area, and the unease transformed into muted gasps. Something was not right there. By the time they finished the tour, Claire's heart felt heavy with the weight of all they hadn't seen but had sensed lurking in the shadows. Would they be able to piece together everything they learned? And what if it didn't add up to something good? On the bus ride back, thoughts whirled in Claire's mind. The fun, the hope, it all felt like a distant shore, the safety of solid ground slipping away beneath her feet. But, quietly, she realized, this was exactly why they had come. Their journey to uncover the truth had begun. And while she couldn't predict what lay ahead, she knew one thing. Once you start seeking the truth, there's no turning back. As they arrived back at the community center, Claire's heart raced. She turned to Mia, her voice low yet trembling with intensity. "What if we've just scratched the surface of something much bigger? What if it's worse than we thought?" Tomorrow would bring more revelations, and Claire couldn't shake the feeling that they were closer to uncovering a hidden danger they had all been oblivious to for too long. Would they be brave enough to dive deeper? And if so, what would they find waiting beneath the surface? Claire stared at the community center doors, as if they held the answers to her unspoken questions. The vibrant chatter around her faded into a dull hum, and the welcoming atmosphere felt like a thin veil over an unsettling truth. "We need to talk," she whispered to Mia, who nodded in agreement. Inside, the crowd had gathered, animated discussions buzzing through the room. But Claire's mind was elsewhere, focused on the looming threats they had briefly glimpsed on the tour. Finding a quiet corner, they took a breath, the air thick with concern. "What do you think about the chemicals?" Mia asked, her brow furrowed. "I mean, if they're using that stuff, are we putting our families at risk?" Claire felt a deep pit in her stomach. What if it's worse? What if we need to warn them? The room began to fill. What happens if we keep buying from these places? How can we ensure our kids are safe? The weight of those words hung heavily in the air, igniting a fire within Claire. Gathering courage, she stepped forward, her voice strong yet trembling. "Listen, I know we were just told everything is fine, but what if it's not? We need to take this seriously." Mia moved beside her, placing a reassuring hand on her arm. "We can't ignore this. Seeking the truth is our responsibility." Nervous glances passed among the attendees. Claire could see the unease solidifying, a bond forming in shared concern. "What if we host a community meeting?" she proposed, raising her voice. "Get everyone involved. Put our fears on the table. Let's ask the questions that need to be asked." In that moment, the energy shifted. Conversations paused, and eyes turned toward her. The realization that silence wasn't an option began to resonate. "I want to join you," Susan spoke up, stepping forward. "We should gather data, find out what's really happening. There are resources. We can connect with experts who can guide us." Across the room, murmurs of agreement bloomed like wildflowers breaking through cracks in concrete. Families exchanged supportive nods and enthused whispers. Hope sparked in Claire's heart. The weight lifted, replaced by a sense of purpose. As they organized volunteers to begin research and outreach, a collective determination filled the space. An undercurrent of fear intertwined with an unwavering, steely resolve. The sense of community solidified, binding them together through a shared mission. But just as Claire felt the tide turning, a shadow loomed larger than the others, a man in a crisp suit who had been quietly observing the gathering from the sidelines. His expression was unreadable, and when he finally stepped forward, the room quieted. "I couldn't help but overhear your plans," he stated, a hint of skepticism in his voice. "And I must warn you, digging too deep can have its repercussions." The tension reappeared, thicker than before, and Claire's heartbeat quickened. Who was this man? What did he know that they didn't? As the crowd shifted uneasily, Claire exchanged looks with Mia. "We can't afford to back down now," she whispered. The stakes were rising, and yet uncertainty clung to the air, heavy and ominous. "Tomorrow," Claire murmured, determination igniting anew. But just as her resolve grew, the shadowy man's words echoed in her mind, a foreboding warning. Would they truly be prepared to confront the risks ahead? The stakes were about to be clear, and she felt a dread coil tightly in her chest. With the weight of the world upon them, they were poised on the brink of something monumental. But would they be able to unravel the truth before it consumed them? The thought loomed like a dark cloud overhead, leaving Claire anxious about the decisions they would make next. The next morning dawned with an air of charged anticipation. Claire stirred early, the sun barely peeking through the curtains. While the new day promised hope, it also carried the weight of uncertainty on its shoulders. It was the day they planned to gather the community, face the unknown together, and unite against the fears that threatened their health and safety. As she prepared breakfast, Mia joined her, looking alert and ready. "Mom, I've been thinking about everything," Mia said while pouring syrup over her pancake. "What if we right the wrongs? What if we really do something here?" Claire felt a flicker of warmth at her daughter's enthusiasm. "It's up to us, isn't it? This is about all of us. We can't let fear hold us back." Together they discussed their breakfast plans, but each smile came with the underlying tension of what lay ahead. When they arrived at the community center, the atmosphere buzzed with a mix of excitement and anxiety. Families filled the chairs, every face a reflection of concern blended with hope. Claire could feel the energy pulsating through the room, a collective heartbeat ready for action. As she stepped up to the podium, the weight of responsibility settled onto her shoulders. "Thank you all for being here," she began, her voice stronger than she felt. "We came together because we want to protect our families. What we've seen so far makes it clear. The answers are out there, but they won't come to us. We have to seek them out." She glanced around, meeting the eyes of families she had known for years. Their trust felt like a lifeline. "I know there have been whispers of doubt, but we need to face this head-on. We cannot ignore the truth any longer. Knowledge is just the beginning. Together, we will dig deeper until we uncover whatever it takes." A murmur of agreement rolled through the audience, and she felt a surge of strength. Encouraged, Claire continued, "We'll reach out to experts. We'll set up workshops, and we can conduct our own research to understand what is really going on with our food supply. We will not let fear stand in our way." At that moment, the shadowy man stepped forward again, and an uneasy hush fell over the room. "I must continue to warn this community. The journey you're choosing is fraught with risks. Not everyone will welcome your inquiries. Sometimes ignorance is a shield." Claire's heart raced as his words hung heavily, laden with foreboding. "But knowledge is power. It allows us to protect our loved ones," she asserted, emboldened by her shared passion. A brave voice from the back called out, "We are ready to fight and protect our community. We can't just sit back and let others dictate what is safe for us." The crowd echoed with fervor, hearts beating in synchrony. Claire seized their energy, incentivized by their willingness to act. "Exactly. We'll form smaller groups, one for outreach, another for research. Let's create a task force that focuses on transparency in our food supply." As they split into planning committees, a rush of excitement filled her veins. They moved with purpose, brainstorming sessions, pulling resources together, and laying the groundwork for their movement. The atmosphere shifted from fear to empowerment. What had once felt insurmountable now felt charged with action. But through it all, Claire remained acutely aware of the shadowy warning that lingered in the back of her mind. What might they uncover? What truths would challenge their unity? As her own heart raced, she felt a mixture of exhilaration and trepidation. By the time the meeting came to a close, Claire stood before the crowd once again, her heart swelling with pride and hope. "Together, we will navigate this together. This is not just about food safety. It's about the strength of our community. Who we are at our core will define how we handle what lies ahead." Applause erupted, electric and raw. Claire felt alive as sparks of hope ignited within each eager heart. That night, Claire couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, contemplating the enormity of their mission. What if they dug deeper and found something they couldn't change? But as she repeated Mia's words in her mind, she felt a calming wave sweep over her. "We owe it to ourselves," echoed in her heart. Morning arrived with determination burning in her chest. They would face whatever came next together. There was no going back now. In their quest for truth, not only had they declared war on ignorance, but they had also galvanized their community, each person ready to stand side by side in the pursuit of a healthier future. The stakes were high, but so was their resolve. Claire took a deep breath as they gathered once more, not just as individuals, but as a united front. They were determined, and that singular truth would guide them through the tumultuous days ahead. As she stepped into the community center, the anticipation crackled in the air. The fight for their health and the truth was just beginning, and there was no turning back now. What they would uncover could change everything. It was time to dive into the unknown, and she felt her heart race at the thrill of it all. The following weeks would reveal their strength and conviction. Whatever they unearthed, they would do it as a team. Seasons would change, and from this moment on, they would be transformed, ready to rise up for each other and the next generation. And in that embrace of solidarity, Claire recognized that even amidst the daunting uncertainty, their unity would always be the light guiding their path forward. From this moment, they would begin not only to advocate for change in their community, but to initiate a movement that transcended their little Midwestern town. And the fight for healthfulness would ripple across lives far and wide. They would uncover the truth together, and together they would ignite a revolution for change. As Claire locked eyes with her neighbors across the room, she felt an unwavering certainty in her soul. This was only the beginning, and they were ready to embrace the challenges ahead, united in their pursuit of hope, health, and truth. Now was the time to act. And as you step with Claire into this unfolding journey, it's your turn too. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories of transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and make your voice heard. Comment your feelings about this inspiring ending. Share this video with at least 5 friends who must see this transformative journey. This is the moment to show your support for the fight of health and truth.